What's up, everybody? Do you get stressed out about the war in Russia, the crazy politicians, traffic, jobs, unemployment? Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to find peace in a crazy world. This is the Existential Stoic podcast, episode 151. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy? I'm glad you
Yeah,
said the war
so,
in Russia because everybody else says you.
oh, well, okay, fine. It's not
I'm
in
just kidding. I'm
Russia.
just
The,
kidding.
the
I was just
Russian
teasing you.
war in
Yeah.
Ukraine. I really don't pay too much attention
I
to it.
just like the different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, it's a stressful world we live in, and
Yeah.
especially if you watch the news. Like,
Oh God, yeah.
okay, so me personally, I have not watched news since I read the 4 Hour Work Week, like back in 2008 or something like that. I have not watched the news one time. I really don't care. And people are like, but don't you want to know what's going on? And I'm like, no, I don't want to know like a curated collection of the worst stuff going on in the world.
Yeah.
Like, not interested. But
You know what? That's what I hate though. They never do like anything good ever. And it's so opinionated anymore. And it's funny because I still happen to catch it sometimes. I don't watch it anymore. I stopped doing that. And like there's things that are valuable for like, teaching and stuff sometimes if I'm teaching environmental ethics, knowing about what's going on. But like, yeah, I don't get it. It's not like I still know what's going on. Like that's what I don't understand. People act like you totally are out there. It's like, no, I can still figure it out.
well,
Like,
that's the crazy thing is I do not watch any news. I do not read any newspapers. I do not know anything. And sure, like I'm not the most up to date person, but literally that's all other people talk about is like, do you know what's going on here? And I'm like, no, tell me. And then they tell me, and then okay, I'm up to date. Like you just spent I don't know, like 50 hours of the past week keeping up to date on this stuff, and you just updated me in 2 minutes. I'm good. Thank you.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. Shows you how necessary it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, I get it because people get stressed out. Like the economy, the politician. Oh my gosh. They go, so how do you find peace in this crazy, crazy? Because even if you don't, like, I'll be honest, I don't pay attention to any of this stuff. I still have a hard time finding peace.
Dude, you know what's funny though? That's what I was gonna say. And I think this is why it's an interesting topic, is like even if you don't pay attention, it's still hard because you still have your own life, your own problems, your own struggles. There's still a larger issues you know about. We do know about like climate change and all that stuff that's going on. There's the financial markets. There's all stuff that you're just aware of anyway. And like that's worrisome. There's also your long-term well-being. And so I mean, there's so many things to stress you out. And we have so much information that it's really hard. And I think our own imaginations are so toxic for it too. Because I think that's my biggest problem I noticed. Like I was just telling you earlier before we started, was like this week, I was feeling a little off, and I think it's like allergies and not feeling well. But like I also get so depressed every time that happens because I feel tired. Or I don't feel like working because I'm like sick. And it's like, but then my imagination starts running on like I'm a failure. I can't do anything. And it's like, no, I just need to actually take 3 days off probably and I'll feel better. But yet, I stress myself out and make it worse. And it's like, so I need peace.
You make a great point there because we've talked about it before how like your mindset at this moment impacts your outlook on life. So like
Yeah.
if
Oh
you're in a
yeah.
bad mood right now, you think your life just sucks. But if you're
Yeah.
in a great mood right now, you think your life is going to be awesome. And so like actually knowing yourself and being able to recognize what mood you're in right now and how that's impacting your life is such a helpful skill because I get the same way that you're talking about, where I'll get into a bad mood and I'll be like, "Oh, my life is over. This is terrible." Like, ah, and then sometimes I catch myself and be like, "Hang on, I'm in a bad mood. This will eventually pass.
Yeah.
What can I do to get through this?"
Yeah. And it's like
Yeah,
it's like wallowing in that like sad storm or whatever. It becomes like I don't know, it becomes like a toxin almost, or like a drug almost. It's weird, right? And you have to identify it quickly. And I think that's a big part, is identifying your mood and recognizing that we talked about, the Stoic talked about like what's in your control, right? Your attitude and your mind. Like being aware of that and being on top of it is crucial. And it's hard. And I think too what's hard is that we've been talking about this for what, like almost 2 years now? Well, longer really, if you look at it. We've been doing the podcast for like a year and a half. But like you have to keep coming back to it and keep reminding yourself, and you have to keep working at it. It's not something that just magically happens. And I think that's the other thing. Like we all have this idea of like happiness is a fixed state or wisdom is a fixed state. or peace is a fixed state. But the reality is we live in a world that's changing. Our everyday life is changing, and so it actually is something you have to keep working at, and that's what's hard too.
Mm. That's a good point. So like Zig Ziglar, he's like a famous motivational guy, and people always harp on him about motivation. They're like, how come motivation doesn't last? And he's like, motivation's like showering. Like, you don't shower once and then you're
Yeah.
good. Like, you do it on a regular basis. And it's the same type of thing where, like, I like to look at it like garbage in, garbage out. So like
Yeah,
whatever you
yeah,
put
totally.
into your mind, that's what you're going to get out of it. So I just try and cram as much positive stuff in there as I can to get some good stuff out. And I don't know, people may ask, how do you do that? And it's finding the good stuff and listening to it or reading it over and over and over again. Because
Yeah.
when you experience it the new time, you're in a totally different state. You get something different from it. Like Naval Ravikant, who's probably one of the thought leaders of our generation, he has read a lot of books. Like,
Yeah, a lot.
I don't know,
Fair
a lot.
amount.
He grew his mom couldn't afford a babysitter, so he basically grew up in the New York Public Library.
Yeah, which is a great
But
place to grow up, actually.
yeah, but he said that like he's read these hundreds or thousands or millions of books, however many, and he's like, I would much prefer to read the top 10 books over and over and over and over again than to waste my time reading the rest of that. And that really resonated with me, because I was like, I am wasting a lot of time reading these rehashed version of basically a book that was
The
already
same thing.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
worse and worsely and worse, it's a worse edition of it. But I think,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good point because like there's stuff that I read for fun that I think is a good part of my life. But there's also like those really important books or great works are like, why go to the secondary crap? Why go to the stuff that's like a slimmed down or watered down version of it when you could just read the original and read it again and keep getting new things out of it and keep reminding yourself of those skills that are important. And,
Yeah.
it's funny, like I think it is hard because we have to also catch ourselves. Like this happened to me just the other day, and it happens, and I always have to remind myself, like, I have two puppies, like they're young. So they obviously get frustrating sometimes, like where you want to like, bring their necks, but you don't, but you do. But you know what I mean? Like you want to because they
Yeah.
get super. But it's funny because like the other day I called myself, I was getting like really frustrated at their actions. And then I looked at them and I remind myself, I was like, they're like brand new in the world, and they're just testing their limits and they're just trying to have fun and they just want attention. And I looked down and I started cracking up because they're so goofy. And it's like when I really thought about it, like, and took myself out of my own state, it was really like the stress I was putting on myself that was getting in the way of being like giving them the time that they wanted and spending time and having fun, enjoying them for the reason that I have them, which is they're fun. And it's like,
Mm,
but it's so easy to slip into that. And I think that's where a lot of us lose that piece in
mm.
this crazy world because there's so much going on.
Yeah. You make a couple of good points about kind of changing your mind frame, but also having the time to do that with so much going on in the world. So there was this, I remember this study that they did back in the day where they were at some type of like a religious college, and they told people that they had to
Oh,
get a message somewhere very quickly, and then they told
yeah.
people they had to get a message there, you could take as much time as you want.
I think it was like
And
Princeton Seminary or something like the religious school. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and in the middle of the path, they had like someone dying in the in the street or whatever it was, and the people in a hurry, they didn't even stop. They didn't even notice the person there. But the people who had all the
They
time
had
in the
to like
world,
walk over them, literally, I
yeah,
think. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the people who had the time, they stopped. And this is something that I've noticed in my own life as well. That like whenever I'm in a hurry, I get really frustrated. I get really impatient. I'm not very respectful or nice to other
Yeah.
people.
No.
And so like this is something that I'm noticing in my own life where I need to like I've at least said to myself that like if I need to be in a hurry to do it, I'm better off just not doing it.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's important, because having the time and the energy to actually be the person you want to be is pretty important. And so finding the time for people to do that is important.
Let me throw this at you too, though, because this has been my experience in the past, and I've been working on this a lot. And I agree with you. The same problem, like where I feel like make myself rush or in a hurry, and the stress just keeps building. But there's also this sense in which that when we make ourselves feel stressed and in a hurry, like we don't have time, like we feel more important. And there's a certain level of importance we place on things that we're like, oh, I'm too busy. I got to do this. I have to do that. And then, no, it's too important. But really, it's like it's not important. Like you can step back, and like I hear people talk like that all the time. Like, no, I have to work till midnight because of this. And it's like, really, it's not that. Nobody else, not everybody else is. So why are you like?
Mhm.
And stepping back is so crucial for that peace, though, and finding that like healthy balance in your life.
Yeah, because in the end, we're all gonna die, and the world's gonna keep going without us.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, it's
I
gonna
keep
forget
going
us.
back, I keep going back to the cemetery, and I look at these people who are buried there, and I'm like, these people all thought that their life was super important. They all thought they needed to work so hard. They all
Yeah,
got frustrated at these people who weren't doing stuff. And like I'm the same place now, and I'm gonna be right here in 300 years
yeah,
because I'm
yeah,
gonna live a really long
forever.
time.
Or I'll be putting a
Yeah,
computer, uploaded to a computer, and I'll be forever.
right.
But you know, it's funny
Exactly.
though. And then we also started. But that's I think that was the point I was trying to make too with my dog too, and like with our loved ones. Like then we start to also like we forget why we even are with the people we're with, or why we spend time with the people we care about. We totally like everything starts to become taken for granted because of the stress we're placing on ourselves. And like, there's been so many studies that have shown like the hormone stress releases and stuff like kill you faster, and like just also it's miserable. It really is. And like I just caught myself today because I said I wasn't feeling good. I'm sitting downstairs before we recorded, and like I was feeling bad, and I was like, why am I even like? I can just read, watch TV, I can just hang out. I don't have to do anything today. It's not a big deal. Like I already knew that, and I already got stuff done. Like I felt so much better when I just took myself out of myself for a minute. But I almost feel like it's like that. You have to like almost like remove yourself out of like that first person view and like step back, and like look at yourself and be like, is this really healthy, worthwhile, important,
Mhm.
and try and get to it.
Yeah. It's like I always I try a lot to contemplate that like the universe is supporting me because and
Well,
then like sometimes I look back and I'm like, when has the universe not supported me? I'm like, never. So why would it stop now? You know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just like it's being able to release. But there's this whole idea that I have to do it and I have to
yeah,
and like
yeah.
and so that propels me a lot of the time thinking that like I have to do it. So it's finding the balance between the two is important.
Yeah, and I think like the stoic idea of like what's in your control is really important. I always fall back to, you already mentioned this a little bit, but like the existentialist, that idea that we're all going to die. None of this ultimately matters. There is no overall meaning or purpose. Like that is actually comforting me, because a lot of times when I feel stressed, I pull myself back. I'm like, this doesn't matter. Like in the large scale, right? In my life, it does. In my day to day, it does maybe, but like large scale, it really doesn't. And when you look at it that way, it frees you to think about like, well, what do I really want to do? Because that's what matters. If I only have this one moment, what really makes this valuable is the things that I assign myself, those achievements, those goals. I make it meaningful rather than letting the outside world. Because I think that's one of our other problems is there's so much noise in this world. There's so much influence and pressure on us that sometimes it's even hard to know who we are, what matters to us, what's important, and why we're even doing what the hell we're doing. It gets so lost in that stream of just chaos.
That I mean that's a great point too because I struggle with that a lot of the time where I I do things that I don't really want to do because I think I'm supposed to do them. You know, like
I'm
people
trying to
ask me to
stop
go dude, people
doing
ask
it.
me to go do stuff and I don't actually want to do it, but I'm like, I should be nice. And, if I start saying no to them, then I'll be saying no to everybody and then I won't have any friends and all this. And like I get hope, but then I get stuck in these situations where I'm like, just like, okay, can we finish this up? I want to go home and do what I want to do. Um,
Yeah,
but also I wanted to, when you were talking about just the Stoic beliefs, and we were talking about how reading the same books over and over again. So we just made those episodes on Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and also the
Tao
Tao
Te
Te Ching.
Ching. Yeah,
And we were
yeah,
saying like if you read two classic books over and over again and just them, and it takes probably 2 hours to read both of them, that
yeah,
those two books are incredible. And you read those over and over again. I heard it takes like 17 times of reading a book or being exposed to something for it to actually sink in. But you do that. That's what, like 40 hours of exposure to get those
yeah.
17 times into your system. And you just do it over and over and over again. Because that teaches you about death and about just like how you just got to keep on going.
Mhm.
And also about how like the universe stuff just happens,
Yeah.
you know? So I
It.
think those would be
Oh,
good.
No, I was gonna say both those books too remind you, and I think it's one of the things I always liked a lot about Nietzsche because he reminds you of it a lot too, is like to just not take things so damn seriously and to laugh at yourself and to learn to like Nietzsche says it very well. He always says like, we have to learn to laugh at our own folly, not take ourselves so seriously all the time. And I think that's a big part of it too, is just kind of like realizing the kind of humor and the cosmic joke of this life.
Dude, so I got two experiences because I'm doing this more and more with like stuff that typically would frustrate me. I start laughing at it. So like one thing about I always think that like if I walk really fast, then it means that I'm important, that I have somewhere to go. And like almost all the time, people will walk right in front of me, like there's nobody. And then somebody will just walk right in front of me, in front of like the escalator, and they're going slow as a mofo, and they just stop in the middle of the escalator, and they're just like, "All right,
Yeah.
I'm here,"
Same
and I
with
laugh at
driving,
that.
right?
Yeah,
Pull right
I
out in
know,
front of you
right?
going 2 miles
Yeah.
an hour.
Yep. So that I just start laughing at. I'm just like, wow, this is like a great cosmic joke. But the other day I was at the gym and there's a dude in his Speedo and a swim cap flossing his teeth in the bathroom. And I'm like cracking up. I'm like, what? How does this
What?
happen? Like you can't make this stuff up. And like
You know what though? I think sometimes that's too like the universe telling us to like slow down, laugh, not be so serious. Because look at around us, right? Look at the situation around us. And when you really
mhm,
do, it's like it's hilarious. Like look at what people are freaking out about. Look at what their attention on. It's like when you really look at it, it's like, but they're not solving any problem. It's not really doing. It's like it cracks me up sometimes because it's like all these people that jab about it all the time. It's like they're not actually doing anything to make it better anyway. So like
mhm,
you're not doing anything. Like you're just knowing for knowing's sake does not help anyone. It doesn't make
mhm.
anything better. So it's like, yeah, it is funny. I like that.
Yeah,
Flossing with this.
yeah. So
It's like a
other
cartoon.
oh dude, it's crazy. Other ways to be peaceful in this crazy world is get out of the modern world. Go outside.
Yeah. Oh,
It
dude.
like I sometimes imagine like what it'll be like, what it would be like, number one, if I was in prison, or number two, if I was on my deathbed. Like those two things, and because for me, those two scenarios kind of bring uh bring in close
Well, it's like
contact
the loss
the
of freedom, right? In the
the
one.
loss of freedom
And
and
yeah.
the loss of this world.
Yeah,
So like,
literally.
and especially when I go out into nature, and I can just like look at trees and just like, just like there's so many different types of trees and there's so much color in one tree, and it just feels
Yeah,
good to
yeah,
look at the tree and look at the
yeah,
sky and the clouds and the grass and the water, and like see the animals moving through it and hear the sounds, and just being able to go do that on a regular basis is something that really contributes to my own personal peace.
yeah, no, I take 3 walks a day outside minimum, and like I walk like 4 or 5 miles a day, and like I noticed, and this is the dead truth, it's just like the small delights. Like you have to do it regularly and often before you really notice the actual abundance of just diversity, beauty, and awesomeness. Like it's one of those things where you just have to keep doing it to really get the full benefit. It doesn't work like once helps. Don't get me wrong, it can calm you down, it can get you perspective, whatever. But like doing a lot, you start to really get it's like reading a book 17 times, right? You get the surface level the first time, then you get comfortable with it, then you start to really see beneath it. And that's when it really gets interesting. And I think that's our biggest problem is most of us try these things a few times, but we never get past the water line. And we're never getting beneath it. We're never even getting comfortable with it. Like our bodies haven't even adjusted to the temperature, and we jump out and do something different. And it's like, I think that's also our problem.
And also thinking that we don't have enough time to do it. So this was
Yeah.
something that stopped me for a while because I thought that I needed an hour in order to go spend time outside. But then I had this experience where I only had like 27 minutes. And I was like, this isn't enough time. Like by the time I get my shoes on, I'll have to be coming back. But I was like, just do it. Like you haven't been outside today, just do it. And I did it. And I was just blown away with like how much it changed my mindset in just that short amount of
Yeah.
time. And because I had this limited time, I was consciously noticing it so much more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I would just urge
It's
people
amazing.
that even if you think you don't have time, just get outside and relax just a little bit.
Oh,
five
dude, just
minutes.
today. Oh, it's amazing. Like, I was noticing today, like it's that time of year where like the leaves have the flowers on, the flowering trees, and it's like with the blue sky. It's just, I mean, it's amazing. It is. You gotta get out there. I think it's a good one. That's a crucial one. And doing things over and over again to try and like really get deep into it and actually enjoy it and take advantage of it, which I don't think we do enough because we're always rushed. I think that's the biggest problem too.
Well, we talked about this in our quick fix failing forward. How basically you need to accept that you're going to fail and just
Yeah.
keep going. So like a lot of us don't want to get involved in stuff because we're like, oh, I need to be perfect the first time. And it's like, how about not? How about just considering you'll be perfect the thousandth time and then get there?
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Well, what's funny too? I was listening to this podcast on photography because I like photography, and it's like how people get into it and all. And a lot of these people are like they're amateur to professional, but a lot of them talk about like when they were starting out, like joining these photo groups because like but part of that is recognizing that you're not a professional, that you're not great, that you're not perfect, because then you learn from other people, then you're open to taking other ideas, looking at things from different perspectives. When we think we know what the fuck we're talking about all the time, it doesn't work. And I think that's
Mhm.
the other issue too, is like we close ourselves off to the world by thinking we're 100% correct always.
Yeah, I get stuck in there all the time because I'm pretty darn sure I am correct
Yeah,
most of
me too. I know. It's a bitch, isn't it? It's really hard to
the
change that
time.
mindset.
Oh my gosh, I think
Oh
everybody
gosh,
else thinks the same way too. So it's so difficult.
which is funny.
Hmm.
I think that's. I think yeah. I think we lose our. I think that's the worst part. We lose our sense of humor too when we let ourselves get too stressed in this crazy world because sometimes just to laugh at it and take a step back.
Hmm. Yeah. There are also, I mean, there are also other things that can be done to help be peaceful. So like meditation, I think
Oh yeah,
meditation is like the giant elephant in the room or whatever they say. How like everybody knows you should do it, nobody wants to do it, and most people think they can't do it. So like
yeah.
it's kind of crazy for I guess those threefold reasons, but it's something that's so essential. And again, it's just something where you do just a little bit every day, a few minutes. Like
You
for
can do
me
it laying
personally,
down, sitting, walking. There's so many
yeah,
ways to do it too.
I know. And you can do guided meditations, you can do unguided
Yeah,
meditations. So like it's just finding some way to do it to incorporate it into your life, and just doing a little bit on a regular basis helps build up that strong foundation for you in peace. So that way when you need to enter there, you can enter a lot more easily because you have a tether waiting for you.
yeah, yeah. And you're right too. I think, and that just goes back to that consistency too, because that you'll fail all the time with meditation. You fail almost every time you do it. So it's like it's perfect because it really preps you for that right attitude.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I think that stops a lot of people because they're like, I can't meditate. I tried it and I just have all these thoughts in my mind. I clearly did it wrong. And it's like, nah,
Yeah,
that's it.
exactly the
That's it.
problem.
What you did, you just meditated 100% correctly.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I've tried a whole bunch of different meditations. And for me personally, at this point in my life, all I do is every morning I wake up and I do a guided compassion meditation, because
Oh,
I
nice.
notice
Yeah.
I notice for me personally, like I have to work on opening up my heart because I'm a lot more mind focused,
Oh, me
and
too.
yeah, and so that closes me off. So every day just working on opening my heart a little bit more. And I know that like right now I'm still just learning, but 20, 30 years of doing this, my heart will be open. So that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
okay with, I'm okay
You'll be
with
better.
failing over and over again until I get there.
You know what though? It's like those are two things I try to remind myself a lot too, which is like wisdom takes a whole lifetime, right? It takes time. Anything takes time. And I think we try to rush things too much. And also the other thing is like I always try to remind myself too that it's just life. You know, we're all trying. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing, but we're all trying. And so I think trying's an important part of it. And just reminding yourself that hey, it's just this thing called life. We're just trying to do it. We don't have a choice. We're already here. You know.
Yeah. So like this week, I was thinking about your example where you're talking about the older professor, and he's like, "I'm so much older than you. Like, of course I know more." And I was thinking back to when I was in high or college, and I was doing my senior research with this professor, uh, studying chaos theory because I studied
Oh,
physics in
nice.
college,
Yeah, I remember that.
and
I read your thesis.
yeah, and so like I didn't understand it then. I still don't understand it now,
I didn't
but
understand it
like,
then either.
but like the stuff that this guy could do in his like he basically knew my whole entire project before I even proposed it to him. He knew the answers to everything. He was just kind of like guiding me step by step to help me
Yeah.
figure it out. He like had a PhD from MIT, and he was brilliant. And I always looked up. I was like, how does he know this stuff? Like, what kind of mind does he have? This is insane.
Yeah.
And I thought about what you were saying with that professor, and I look back and I was like, he was about that much older than me then.
Yeah.
It seems like so long ago that I had that experience with him. He's still like back then, he's still way older than I am now. So like
Yeah.
having that much time to accumulate that much information, it's like, yes, we have our whole lives to basically
Dude,
accumulate or do whatever we want to do.
well, that's the crazy part. That was half my life ago, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he was still he's still double my age like now.
Yeah.
It's like insane. And I think it's just a smart thing to think about because it's like, of course you're not going to be as good as the people who've been doing it forever. But they're the ones that ask, they're the ones to look to for help, whether it's through books, whether it's whatever, directly. And I think that's the thing we also forget. We get so caught up in this, like, I don't know, like idolization or like raising people up that we forget that we can ask them that they're people, that they probably want to share the information with that, but they're probably interested in talking about it, especially if it's something like that where they study it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
blocks us a lot from like also just finding ways to find better life and peace with ourselves and doing what we want to do.
Well, so I learned that from this guy who was a well, anyways, basically he was telling everybody wants to ask like the most popular person in the field. Like everybody wants to ask Elon Musk how to be a billionaire, you know? But what about the 500 other billionaires who aren't the most rich person in the world? Nobody even thinks
Yeah.
to ask them. And they're like dying for attention. Literally, they're dying for attention. Same thing in any field. Like everybody wants to ask the most popular person, but nobody wants to ask number 2 through 100.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
finding those people, because number one, they're dying for the attention. They want you to ask them. Number two, they're probably closer to where you are than the person who is all the way at the top.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
have more actionable steps for you because they're closer to where you are.
Yeah, it's so funny. I remember like my senior year undergrad was my best year because I spent so much time with my thesis advisors just talking about that stuff. And it was the best, dude. Like I learned so much more in those four months than I did any other time. And it's like, because I had that opportunity and it's like we wasted so often because we're not willing to ask. And like, yeah, it's
Mhm.
crazy.
So
I
who
think
do
it's
we
just,
ask about peace? Being peaceful. We can't ask the Dalai Lama.
but we have books. We can go ask, you can go ask the Tao Te Ching, you can go ask the Stoics, you can go ask all these. I think they're a great place to start. I think
Mm.
also just like learning to not take things so seriously is crucial. And not in a way of like being like blasé or whatever about things, but in the sense of like trying to isolate what's really important and reminding yourself of that a lot. I've been trying to do that a lot for myself and it's hard, but really trying to do it because like, you get caught between those two pools of like wanting to achieve these things that you want to achieve, which can occupy all your time, but also wanting to have a life that you want and like other values and like trying to find that balance.
Yeah, that's a struggle because I always feel like I need to go all the way into one or all the way into
Yeah.
another. Yeah. Trying to
Well, I think the
find the
problem
balance.
is too, a lot of times the only examples of success that we see broadcast to us daily are people that go all in. But what we're missing is the myriad of success where people go all in on all the things they really value and they have a balance. They're not always one side, they're not working 170 hours a week because they're doing other things. And there are examples like that. And I think there's plenty of them. We just need to also look elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's it too. Stop looking at the freaking 0.0001% examples that you keep getting shown all the time through social media, news, and all those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Cut out the
definitely am
noise.
so grateful to stay off of news and social media because it does make life a lot
Yeah.
easier. Like, sure,
Yeah.
being connected with people, it's a little bit more challenging because I need to use a messaging service as opposed to like Facebook
Yeah.
or Instagram or something like that. But like the negative influence, I don't get that at all. So like I have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on with the Kardashians.
I
I
don't
have no
care.
idea what's going on with Kanye West. No idea what's going on with politics. But like it frees me up to figure out I just sounded Canadian there. To
Yeah, you
figure out
did.
what's going on with Randall.
In a stereotypical way.
Yeah, it frees me up, gives me a chance to figure out what's going on with Randall and what Randall wants his life to be, so that way I can pursue that.
Well, I think that's the other thing too, is you need downtime, right? You need to be bored sometimes. You need time to think and reflect. I think also too, doing something like what we're doing right now is setting aside time with like a friend or somebody you like and just chatting this week is a good way to do it too. This has helped immensely.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Can't overstate it.
absolutely. Yeah, I know. The past year and a half of doing this has been probably the best year and a half of my life so far. So
I
yeah,
feel like I've grown a lot.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
funny because we keep coming back to talk about the same things over and over again, and yet every
Well,
week
that's
they're relevant.
yeah. Because you know the funny thing is I think that's the biggest thing I realized is that we all keep and I knew this from studying philosophy because you see it a lot in like the works too. Is like we keep coming back to the same problems over and over again because they're just human problems. And I think that's just it. Like you're just a human being. Slow down, laugh. It's okay. You'll get through it.
Uh,
You'll
right?
wake up tomorrow.
I know, it's so crazy. We're all just
Yeah.
human beings, unless we're in a crazy simulation.
Yeah, but then we still are.
Yeah,
We
right.
just are as in a
We're just
simulation.
simulated human beings. Yeah,
Mm,
so crazy. Yeah.
it
So I
is.
guess that's it. How to find peace in a crazy
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Right.
So if you had to summarize it, I would say go on a diet, stay away from negative news influences, things like that.
Yes.
Uh, Figure out what you want in your life. Spend more time in nature. Slow down.
Laugh at yourself more. Laugh more in general. Take things less seriously. Like to find out what you should be serious about. Um, really try to get perspective on things in the moment. Pay attention to your emotions, things like that. Small delights, and commit to things. Repetition. Give things a chance before you abandon them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. In a nutshell,
That's
there you
good.
have it.
Yeah.
We can go and post that on TikTok, and then people can
Right. There we
watch that.
go.
Quick
We're
little
gonna
list.
try it. Sooner or later, we'll get there.
All right. Well, that is all for today's episode. How to find peace in a crazy world that we live in. I still think it's the best possible world of all the possible worlds out there, and it keeps on getting better and better.
The only one I
But
know, so I don't really have a way. It's hard to evaluate it.
well, I read history books, and I'm always astounded like how brutally violent history has been. And right
Yeah.
now, yes, there's a war between Russia and Ukraine and a lot of places in
Yeah.
Africa.
But
And
it's always
it's
been like that.
unfortunate, but like in general, we live in the most peaceful time that's ever existed.
There's also a lot of people, dude. I'll have to send you the quote, but there's a quote Nietzsche says where he says, we can't say whether life is that this is the best world or the worst world. It makes no sense. And he says because the people that are dead, they're dead, so they don't really can't answer the question. And the ones that are alive, well, they're an interested party, so they would have a biased perspective anyway. I think
Uh-huh.
it's true, right? Like, why even worry
Yeah.
about that question? It
Yep.
just is what it is,
Absolutely.
and I think that's that. Yeah,
That's a great point. So we don't know if it's the best or possible or worst possible world, but it's the only one we've got. So enjoy it. Thank
yeah.
you so much for listening to this episode, number 151 of the Existential Stoic podcast. And we will be back throughout the week. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, catch us on YouTube, all the podcasting services. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Andrew.